Hello, welcome to the Meeting Minutes Workshop, a topical presentation in the educational series developed by the membership department of Moose International. These presentations have been created to assist our lodge leadership and membership to understand why or how to do things that will improve their lodge. Topics are chosen from suggestions by our membership and also from suggestions by our field staff managers derived from experiences as they visit lodges. At the conclusion of this presentation, which will run for approximately 30 minutes, you will be invited to submit your suggestions and comments. Now, settle back and enjoy this presentation on meeting minutes. The presentation will automatically play. As we get started, it is important that everyone understand what are minutes. Webster's provides us the official definition. Minutes are a note or a memorandum, an official record of what was said and done at a meeting, convention, etc. In law, they are considered the voice of a corporation. Here's a question for you. Are Moose Lodges corporations? If you answered yes, you are correct. Our lodges are organized as 501c8 not-for-profit corporations. Every lodge is a registered corporation in the state or province in which it is located. Under the law, corporations are considered artificial beings. That is, they are seen as a kind of a person that doesn't exist in the flesh. But for a corporation to function, it needs certain elements. First, it needs a board of officers. Collectively, they are known as the mind of the corporation. This board of officers must collectively get together, and they do that in meetings. In these meetings, the board of officers collectively will take official actions on behalf of the corporation. And those official actions must be recorded. So how do we record officially those actions? We do it in the minutes. The minutes are the record of the corporate actions. Do lodge meetings require minutes? Yes. Our lodges are corporations, and we know now that corporations under the law are considered artificial beings. And the artificial beings do require a voice. And that voice, as we know, is the official minutes of the corporation. Let's take a moment to review what we have covered up to this point. We know lodges are corporations. Corporations are artificial beings under the law. Corporations require a board of officers. The board of officers will represent the mind of the corporation. The meetings are required for the minds to make decisions. Actions taken in the meetings are recorded as minutes. And minutes will become the voice of the corporation. Why would we want our lodge to be a corporation? There are major benefits to being a corporation. Primarily, it's the afforded protections. Remember, we said previously that a corporation under the law is an artificial being. Therefore, the corporation is responsible for its own liabilities. This affords protection to our officers. They are shielded from personal liability for debts or legal actions taken against the lodge. Now, to have the protections in place, the officers must conduct themselves in accordance with corporate law. It offers protection to our members in two fashions. First, actions can only be taken when there is a quorum present in the meetings. This assures that the vote to take any action has fair representation. Secondly, protection to the members also includes protection against liabilities or debts created against the corporation. And finally, corporate status provides protections to the lodge itself. Generally, these protections are in the form of favorable tax laws and liability laws. What protections are afforded to lodge officers? Remember that the lodge is an artificial being, and therefore the lodge is responsible for its own lawsuits and liabilities. The protection afforded to the officers is known as the corporate shield or the corporate veil. When members of the board have made their decisions and these decisions are recorded in the minutes, the corporate veil protects the individual board members from liabilities that could cost them personal assets. To maintain the corporate veil, the individual members of the board must have acted in the following manner. First, they must have performed their duties and responsibilities as outlined in the general laws and in the lodge handbook. They must have used reasonable care in the execution of their actions. This is defined as, would their actions seem reasonable to a normal person? They must have performed their duties with fiduciary responsibilities. That is, they must protect the assets of the corporation, or in this case, the lodge. They have a duty to notify. They must be transparent. If they're aware of issues arising within the lodge, they must give notice to the membership. And finally, they have a duty of loyalty. They must avoid conflict of interest in their decision making. They must discount all personal wants or needs and make decisions based on what is best for the lodge in a whole. What is the relationship between individual officers and the corporation? First, no officer alone has any authority, except for previously approved actions expressly written in the general laws or in the approved minutes. A quorum is required to convene a meeting, and then decisions made by those in attendance is by majority vote, thereby assuring a meeting of the minds and not an individual. The role of minutes. We previously discussed that minutes are the official record of actions taken during a meeting. We also discussed the importance of our officers conducting themselves in accordance with specific duties under the law that afford them protections that keep any legal actions and liabilities the sole responsibility of the lodge. It is easy to see how important minutes will be in providing proof of our actions to perform responsibly under the law. These minutes will provide evidence that we conducted appropriate meetings. A quorum was present. Every officer performed their responsibilities in the appropriate manner. They performed. They had reasonable care. They did their fiduciary duty. They did notification when it was necessary. And they had no personal conflict during their actions. Our minutes accurately reflect our actions and therefore are a solid voice of our lodge. We now understand the importance of minutes, so let's discuss the proper way to record or take those minutes. First, it is important that minutes are recorded for every meeting. Second, we don't want to lose any of our minutes, so we should make certain they are maintained in a binder. Likewise, we don't want our minutes to be altered or changed after we have approved them, so they should be written in ink. The minutes should follow the established agenda, which gives an appropriate timeline to our meetings. As example, the first item in the minutes is the roll call, to allow the presiding officer to know that a quorum is present, wherein he or she can call the meeting to order. We want a recording secretary that can write or print in a manner that would permit others to be able to read the written content. Finally, we must remember that for minutes to be official, they must be read and approved at a subsequent meeting, and once voted as approved, they must be signed by the presiding officer and the recording secretary. Let's talk about some other rules regarding meetings. First, in the Moose, the administrator by the general laws is responsible for taking minutes in our lodge meetings. However, we know that occasionally our administrator may not be able to attend a meeting. Generally, we would look to the treasurer to serve in the role of the administrator. But for purposes of taking minutes, the presiding officer can appoint anyone in attendance to serve as the recording secretary. The decision should be guided to select someone with good hearing, good writing skills, eligible penmanship, and the ability to stay focused. Following the agenda helps the recording secretary in the execution of his or her duties. Remember that minutes are a representation of the actions that occurred during a meeting. It is not necessary to capture every spoken word. It is possible that a roll call vote is taken, and individual voting is recorded, or that an officer will want to have included a statement as to why he supported or didn't support a particular item of business. When such request is made, it should be included in the minutes. Remember that when the officers conduct the meeting in accordance with the rules and follow their responsibilities, they have no fear for personal liability. You might be voted out of office at the next election because members didn't get what they wanted, but you will have no fear or anxiety that you didn't do your job correctly. In the Moose, we received requests to be allowed to mechanically record meetings to create minutes. The General Governor will, depending on why the request is made, grant a dispensation to a lodge for a limited time frame and allow recording device to be used in meetings. If your lodge has received this dispensation or is thinking about asking for this dispensation, there are some guidelines you need to use. First, as soon as possible, you should convert the recorded meeting to written minutes and then erase the recording. Remember also that all attendees to the meeting must be made aware that it is being recorded for the purposes of preparing the minutes. Why would we want recordings to be deleted? First, the most recognizable method of minutes is that of ink on paper that are later read and approved. Once signed and the pages accounted for, no further changes can be made, assuring the official record of the meeting. It is not possible to sign the recording, and it is not possible to submit the recording when minutes are required to provide evidence of a specific action. Lastly, there may be things said in the meeting that are not a part of the official record, but exist on the recording. And if the recording is known to exist and a legal matter is brought against the lodge, the tape could be ordered into evidence, and its unofficial content may not be favorable to the lodge. We don't recommend the use of recording devices, but if needed and permission is given, make certain to quickly convert the recording to official minutes and delete the recording. Control of minutes is very important. A good practice is to use pre-numbered pages in a binder. This allows knowledge that every page is accounted for and will eliminate any questions by authorities on if they are reviewing all actions taken by the board and membership. Our Moose Catalog Store makes available for purchase both white pages for officer, general membership, special, and joint meetings, and yellow pages for the House Committee. All are pre-numbered. Binders are also available to keep the pages from becoming lost. A lodge may have several binders of minutes given the time of their existence, having labels on the binders for the months and years contained. Remember to keep minutes in a safe place, and preferably in a controlled environment, such as a fireproof cabinet, and wrapped in a large sealed plastic bag for water protection. Remember also that House Committee meetings must be separated from lodge meetings. Keeping these minutes separate will protect the House Committee minutes from being reviewed by non-authorized persons. Although our corporate minutes are subject to review by our members and various agents of government, primarily the IRS, House Committee minutes are those of a committee and are not readily free for examination. However, if you store them close together, they could become a part of any review. Let's talk about the steps that make our lodge actions official. First, individual business items require a motion, a second, and a vote. The majority vote will determine whether the item passes or fails. It is recorded into the minutes. The minutes then also require an official vote at the subsequent meeting. At this time, the majority also rules. They either accept the minutes as written or they challenge items inside the minutes. If minute items are challenged, then they either referred back to the preceding meeting for clarification or they are corrected by the authors, and then another vote is taken, and the minutes corrected are then approved. Once those minutes have been approved, they are signed by the presiding officer and the recording secretary. This makes them official actions of the lodge. Proper storing of minutes is so important, we will once again review the preferred method in the Moose. In binders, using pre-numbered pages. Remember, separate binders for the House Committee and for the Lodge meetings, which consist of the general membership, officer, special, and joint. Keep in a secured office location, not available for review without having an appointment, and never without supervision present. And if at all possible, in a fireproof cabinet, wrapped in large plastic sealed bag to protect against water damage. Remember, minutes are maintained for the life of the corporation. Remember the importance of minutes. For the lodge, they provide proof of proper actions. They also show the authority for taking actions and will provide protections in legal proceedings wherein someone challenges the lodge as a corporation not operating subject to corporate law. For the officers and directors of the lodge, these minutes will prove that they conducted their activities in accordance with individual requirements, the duty to perform their responsibilities, the duty to exercise reasonable care in the execution of these responsibilities, their fiduciary responsibility to protect the assets of the lodge, their responsibility to notify or to be transparent in their duties. If they are aware of something that affects the lodge, they must inform the others. And they have a duty of loyalty to the lodge. They must execute their duties without a conflict of interest or for personal reasons. When these responsibilities are maintained and reflected in the minutes, the opportunity for personal liability is greatly eliminated, and the ability of a legal action to pierce the corporate veil is also greatly reduced. By this time, you could be asking how an officer could incur personal liability for the lodge. Well, first keep in mind that it is rare that individuals are held liable for a corporation, but it has happened. Generally, such liability could occur if the board fails to conduct business. This is why it is not good to cancel meetings or be forced to cancel meetings for lack of a quorum. When an officer or group of officers can't make meetings, it is time for electing a replacement board. Also, you must understand that a lodge must have a board of officers or it is unable to conduct business. An individual member of the board or the board in whole commits fraud. This is where you misrepresent the actual facts. A major committing of fraud could occur in banking or loan transactions, where you overstate the value of the lodge's collateral by creating false support documents. Later, it's discovered by the bank or other parties, and the misrepresentations are identified. You pursue a personal agenda item. For example, the lodge owns a piece of property that you want, and you take actions that result in your acquiring the property. Or perhaps you loan the lodge monies and you personally recommend that piece of property be the collateral. And later, through actions, you make certain the lodge defaults paying your loan, allowing you to take the property at a reduced value. The board or an individual board member establishes liability for the lodge from illegal actions. A good example is illegal gaming in the lodge. The lodge is raided by law enforcement and loses its liquor license, which immediately causes it to lose its main source of income. Misrepresentation of the lodge's business. You could be lying about the lodge having insurance coverage when you know that in fact the insurance was not renewed and replacement coverage was not obtained. Theft of the lodge's assets. You steal lodge funds, or you transfer ownership of the lodge property to yourself without proper authority. In reality, theft can be as simple as taking drinks without paying for them. Remember that it is rare when our lodge officers create personal liability. We have established practices and rules in place to help prevent these things from occurring. This includes financial review committees, transparency at our lodge meetings, and the right of our membership to ask questions. To protect yourself and your lodge from potential liabilities, let the minutes be reflective of solid operations. Make certain you've conducted the required meetings. Make certain that you've made the actions by vote. Secure the necessary dispensations and resolutions. Keep accurate minutes. Make certain the minutes are approved. And store the minutes in a safe location. When you make certain these things are done, you are doing a great job. Now you have an understanding of why minutes are so important. They are the voice of the lodge, and they do provide the legal protections for not only the lodge, but also for its officers and its members. It really is just that simple. If you have further questions or desire more information, we suggest you contact your territory or regional manager for assistance. We trust you have found this presentation of use and that it has given you greater insight on the topic of minutes and their importance. We thank you for your participation. Do you have topics that would be of interest to you or to your board of officers? Do you have comments on this presentation? We invite you to write Membership Director Mike Rios at mrios@mooseintel.org. Your feedback is valued. It will allow us to improve our products and make information available that is important to you. Thanks again for your attendance.